So this is my basic shortbread recipe. It's a Paul Hollywood recipe and it's very good and extremely easy to make. So we've got 225 grams of unsalted butter. I'm using butter, but you can use margarine and you can even use a mixture of both. And if you haven't got unsalted butter, use ordinary butter. It's just whatever you want yourself. And then we've got sugar, some caster sugar, and then we've plain flour and corn flour. So I will cream the margarine and the sugar together and then add my corn flour and my plain flour. So the recipe says 225 grams of plain flour and 110 grams of corn flour. Now, if you don't have corn flour, just make the weight up with all plain flour. So it will give you not the same nice short outcome, but there won't be anything wrong with it at all. And a pinch of salt. Now, the recipe says a pinch of salt. I don't really put any salt in it at all. So I will cream the margarine or the butter and the sugar and then mix the plain flour and the corn flour together and add it to the cream mixture. So I've creamed the margarine and the sugar. It's taken maybe about 5 minutes and I did scrape it down in between beating it. And now I'm on to adding the corn flour and the flour, and you need to add it pretty gradually, otherwise it'll scoot out all over the place. Second thing is, those of you who are observant enough will have noticed that, of course, that looks an awful lot. I've doubled up the basic recipe. For me to make just 20 shortbread isn't enough, so I've doubled the recipe up. So I'm adding the flour and the corn flour mixed together, just a spoonful at a time. So that's it, ready to come out of the bowl. Now you'll see the bottom of the bowl where the mixture has came clean from the bottom of the bowl, and generally for anything that I'm making, I know it's ready, the mixture's ready whenever the bottom of the bowl is clean, just as it is now. So that's it, ready to roll out. So I just generally, with some flour, form it into a ball, and then I'll cut this in half. So you cut it until a manageable size, and then I'm going to start rolling out. Now, one other thing, this is actually the same recipe that I used for the base of the caramel squares. So not only do you make ordinary shortbread with it, you can do a few other things as well. Sometime down the line I'm going to make cornflake tart, and I think I'll use shortbread for the base rather than pastry. So that's it rolled out and ready to cut, and generally I would take a fork just like that and make a nice wee design on it like that, or do it whatever way you want. So that's them all cut out and ready to rest. So usually rest them in the fridge for about half an hour. Now, I have said to grease your baking tray. I haven't bothered because I know they'll come off the tray. But some trays are not just as good as others. So if you're just starting off, grease the tray and then play it by ear whenever you make your next batch. So I've set the oven at 150 and I'm putting them in for 20 minutes. But I will check them after about 15. So this is them just out of the oven. Now, I don't know if you can see the actual colour, but they are a nice pale golden colour. So normally I just take my palette knife, let them sit a minute or two, and take my palette knife and just ease them for a second and let them sit. Now you can dust them with caster sugar on the tray. Take your sieve and just gently dust some caster sugar over, but it means the tray gets all dirty. So normally what I do is I lift them off onto the cooling rack like this, and then I take my caster sugar and dust it over here. Now I've put greaseproof paper, or you could do it over a baking tin, underneath the wire rack so that it catches the excess caster sugar, and then I keep reusing it rather than wasting it. So that's the final homemade shortbread, and they're very quick and easy to make, and that's back to the recipe again.